We are live, episode 320 of the Better on Draft podcast. My name is Ken. Thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it. On this Friday night, it is hot as hell over in Arizona, and it is muggy as hell here in Michigan. Let's go over and see what everybody is drinking, starting with Nick. Nick, what do you got?
I'm going the NA route tonight. I'm starting with my Open League from Harpoon.
Still getting through all those older beers.
Yeah, plus I'm on a bunch of medications right now. And
hey, you know what? I was on meds for a while, and I was drinking NAs for a while. Dan, what do you got?
So finally, after a couple of snafus a snafu for getting my CO2 tank filled, I'm finally getting to drink my Russian Imperial Stout that I like to call Go-To Gulag. Ken, it's actually... Yeah, you heard that correct. So, Ken, this is actually a good beer. It reminds me of Old Rasputin. Wasn't even trying for that. And Ken, it actually reminds me of your taste in women.
Wow.
That's is there a punchline there?
I mean, black and bitter.
Oh, okay. I was wondering where you were going with that. You lost even me, so and I'm here for a cheap joke too.
It's what it reminds me. It's black and bitter.
For me, I've got Freed from the Cave from New Braunfels, as well as I think 2017 Bell's Java Stout. So we're keeping with the coffee flavored beer here. It's been 7.5 years, almost 8 years that we've been doing this show, and it has been a blast. The one thing that I want to start off today's conversation is, what opinions did you have when we first started our show that really are different today, whether it is a style in beer, your theory on craft beer drinkers, which we used to rail into craft beer drinkers at the beginning of the show. But what is an opinion that has really changed for you regarding the industry, the show, etc.? I'm gonna throw it over to Dan for this to start us off.
So I think there's a couple of big ones that really stick out to me. I didn't realize I had an opinion that, for whatever reason, based off absolutely nothing, was that craft beer brewers, people that ran breweries, were snobs. And it's actually quite the bit opposite. Mm-hmm. So that's a big one there. The thing, if you guys remember back in the early days, we came up with the phrase CBY for some of those people, for some of those beer snobs out there. One of my favorite phrases or things we ever came up with, because it explains them so well.
We still use it, definitely not as much as we used to anymore. But
we used to talk about them in the early days.
I still find myself throwing that out there on occasion. Definitely not as much as we used to, though. But yeah.
I think where my view of brewers and their how they would be come from those CBYs that we know, from the beer drinkers, the elitists, the gatekeepers, that the ones that think they can tell brewers how to do their job better because they had a Mr. Beer Kit one time 5 years ago.
Mr. It kind of expand. You kind of add on to my thoughts. Dan, is I guess I never really had the thought that the people that brew had that thought. I guess that never really crossed my mind. I guess I never would have imagined people, the diehard drinkers, the ones that are not in industry, the ones that kind of fuel the industry, are the ones that are the most pretentious.
Yeah, it's a nice way to say it.
I mean, I guess that's a nicer way to say it, but I feel like it's calmed down a tad, though. Maybe it's because I don't pay attention as much into that scene a little bit. There's just too much good liquid out there, especially in both of our respective states. There's just too much to just, banter on about and say, you should use this versus use that. Which, that's a whole nother conversation. But I definitely feel that it's not worth the argument at all, especially kind of looking back as to how far we've done the show, it's just not worth it anymore. And there's just too many good breweries, too many good styles, too much good beer out there to just, argue over it. Just enjoy it, man. This is supposed to be fun.
I also don't know if I see those kind of people out there anymore. Maybe they just exist online.
Yeah, maybe.
The people one starring a beer because it's not a style that they like.
Like when we had Pilsnerish on the show a couple months ago, and I followed him on Instagram, and I always get a chuckle every time he posts something. It's a 1-star review on a beer, but if you read the comment, it's like, oh, this is so great. But they did it with one little error, and then they just derate it. It's like, there's people.
This is so great, but I'm giving a 1-star review in hopes that the girl bartender sees this and takes my number.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
There are so many fun things that Pilsnerist always posts. But for me, when we started this show, we had so much content talking about the things that went on in these enthusiast groups, like Dacby, West Michigan, Ann Arbor, East Michigan. Like all of these groups had, and Dan, I think, used the exact word, gatekeepers. They all had people who were always the previous version was better, or it's better on draft, as much as we use it tongue in cheek. These people who would be like, oh, you drank the triple mash, but you didn't drink the coconut rum, you're not a real Dragon's Milk New Holland fan. Like, these are the kinds of things that one, we laughed at, but two, really brought out the worst within the fandom of craft beer. And every fandom has these folks, but craft beer, especially like Michigan Beer Reddit at one point, was just such a toxic place to be. That I know a lot of people, including former hosts, including friends, that had to leave all these groups because they were just so bad. Nowadays, if you go into those groups, really it's just people posting what they're drinking, photos, maybe a tap list or a tap takeover that's going on. There really isn't much interaction anymore now that people aren't engaging in shitting on each other.
And I think those are the groups that should be about what you just described, Ken. It's supposed to, share ideas, trying to open up everyone's minds about, hey, maybe you should try this, or maybe you should try that. And I think that's what those groups are for. It's not about I mean, yeah, you can it's okay. I think it's okay to criticize, but keep it at a low level. Some of these guys bust their asses off. Oh, yeah. To make to create a successful business. This is people's livelihoods that we're talking about here. And it's one thing to shit on a beer. It's another thing to shit on the person that does it too. These guys are putting in 13, 14, 15 hours a day for everyone's enjoyment of their craft. And so, leave the groups to just sharing what's hot and what you're drinking, and get people talking about why people should try it. Why the reason, not why they shouldn't do it, or not, they should use this ingredient versus this ingredient because it does this. Get people excited about the stuff more than anything.
I think there's also been a massive update on social media as a whole, but social media within the confines of craft beer. Like, not everyone is on Untapped anymore. Like, not everyone's checking in every single beer on Untapped and gamifying it as much as they used to.
I fall in that category.
Facebook, I mean, our generation is using Facebook less and less, and going to more alternatives like a Discord, where it's more chat based and a little bit more hangout and social, as opposed to whatever Facebook might be considered. So
it's funny you say that. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're fine. Go.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I'm starting to hear people referring to Facebook as a place where the Gen Xers hang out. The younger generation, you're really not seeing them on there as much. And it's absolutely right. I have no idea where those people go. You know, like I have teenagers. I have no idea where they're, you know, communicating with anyone. I talk to everyone, you know, that are in my age group, or, you know, you guys are older millennials. Where the hell is the younger generation? So I think that does play a big point into it too. Everyone who's using like Facebook, for example, is getting older.
Yeah. I feel like they're like using like TikToks and Snapchat and WhatsApp and those
I don't even know what WhatsApp is.
I think it's probably really, really big on the other side of the world, I think. But I'm starting to see it more and more and more popping up. Regretfully, more in the news, more than amongst people.
Yeah, WhatsApp is kind of like Telegram, which is just chat-based communication, not necessarily social media, as much as almost think of it like AOL chat rooms back in the day. Like it's a place.
Is AIM making a comeback?
I wish that was the shit back in the day.
I mean, it basically is a form of AIM with communities as opposed to like kind of like again AOL chat rooms where you went to communities. You went to like the Michigan AOL chat room.
Yeah. Do you guys remember ICQ at all? You guys remember that?
Oh yeah, that's a Canadian thing. If you remember, all the Canadians. Well, all the Canadians seem to use it. It had that damn sound whenever you got a message. It was annoying.
The chime or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, it also brings in like with like IRC, like a lot of people used to use IRC as a chat client.
Oh, yeah.
And I think the communication.
I was still downloading music illegally at one point.
The communication of how people want to interact these days, I think, is why Discord is becoming more and more used by multiple people, because you can be in multiple communities, multiple groups. There is both chat-based. Text-based chatting as well as voice over IP chatting. There's video
and
sharing.
video.
Yeah, there's so much that you can do within Discord. I mean, I know people who record their podcasts via Discord, using Discord calls and channels like that. So I think that people are moving away from that. But the main topic regarding craft beer fans is that one, I think that the toxicity's kind of weeded itself out. A lot of people either stopped, shut up, or left the communities. But I think like Facebook and even in Reddit, like there are times where now, like if you post something in Our Michigan Beer and you're being a troll or being a shithead, like your post is going to get deleted. Like there's no toleration for
no offense. Reddit's also an echo chamber where if you don't have the same opinion, you're gonna get deleted anyways. So
well, I again, each community is different within the world of Reddit. Like Our Michigan Beer, like if you're going into say Our Michigan Beer, I'm trying to think of one of the older posts because all the posts do get posted. We talked about Discord a lot here in the show notes, folks. You can join the Michigan Craft Beer Discord, which we do repost all of the Our Michigan Beer posts. But there are times where people will post something that is just not good. I mean,
in our Discord, I check it so infrequently.
Not our Discord, in Our Michigan Beer in Reddit.
Oh, gotcha.
Like someone going in and just railing into Old Nation. Remember the days of like the 4-day-old Two Hearted versus 4-week-old Two Hearted?
Yeah.
Going in there and be like, oh my gosh, this place had a 4-week-old thing on the shelf. That's not a good conversation. Like you're not participating in the world correctly.
You're being a troll. Yeah.
Yeah, you're
being a dick.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But I think the craft beer community has done a lot better in both calling people out for it as well as self-regulation. Some of the groups with the biggest, the people that I would get into tiffs with on, DACB or Western Michigan, like all of them are chilled out. They're like, oh, we were so dumb back then, as much as it was 7 years ago, but Better on Draft was there 7 years ago.
Oh, we've grown up. Oh, it's 7 years, huh? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's almost a decade. That's a lot. Well, October 2023 will be our 8th year we've been doing this.
Yikes.
I know.
Man. So here's an opinion that I thought when you compare start of the show versus today. I thought when we first started that the amount of IPA drinkers was relatively low. But as I started doing this show, I realized that I was 100% wrong with that thought, that opinion. There are more IPA drinkers in beer than anyone could ever possibly imagine. I don't remember what my first IPA was, and I knew it was before the show. I know that for a fact. But I couldn't stand IPAs. Like the thought of it. Actually, you know what? I think I do remember. I think it was Stone IPA. Stone IPA was, yeah. And of course, I had to pick the most bitter freaking beer at the time.
It's a West Coast,
as my to make it my first IPA. But when I took it, I'm like, what in the world is this? How is this even a thing? And little did I know, even now, it's significantly higher than I ever could imagine, the amount of people that drink that stuff.
Yeah, I think.
And now the different styles of the IPA, it's even crazier.
Well, yeah, when you're getting into the different styles of IPAs between hazies,
here's a hazy for you.
You know, milkshake,
and there's another one,
milkshake IPAs, and all these other variants. When we first started, I think we had such a weird outlook on IPAs because it was the IBU wars. It was who could make the hoppiest, the bitterest, the most West Coast IPA. Like that was whatever. And there were anomalies. There were sessions, like All Day existed back then. And when I would talk about beers, I mean, if you guys remember at the beginning of the show, you know what kind of beers I hated. I hated IPAs and I hated barrel-aged beers. And I just did not like bourbon barrel-aged beers. But since we've been on the show and learning the intricacies of these beers and understanding why I didn't like it, and the same for IPAs, why I like some IPAs versus the IPAs that I don't. And I do look for a specific hop or two that I know won't be as bitter, kick you in the face that we get here in Michigan, because those are the kinds of beers that I don't like. But I think as and I want to say John Mallett, speaking of bells, John Mallett really brought into it is that our tastes have changed so much in the craft beer world that we'd probably look at craft beer, you know, if it was 2016, 2015 when we started and we're looking at the craft beer scene right now, we'd be like, what the hell is going on? Because it's just so different. And the adaptation of all these breweries that are still brewing old true to style beers, brewing these new beers, these hype beers, the beers, you know, they're still chasing the hype, but they're still doing really good things. And there's just beers that will always have the staying power. Like M43 will have staying power forever. You know, Mango Unchained was easily one of the top selling beers over at Baffin. But now it's probably still Wicked Smart, which is their New England IPA. So I think for me, like I'm open a lot more to beers that I wouldn't naturally have gone for, but I'm also okay if I don't like a beer. Like it doesn't ruin my day if there's a beer on my flight that is not good. Like I just don't get upset anymore.
So wait, you wouldn't have a flight to start with, so I don't think that would actually happen.
Again, we're talking about 2015.
Oh, man. I got you. We're talking about 2015. Yeah, you're right. You would get a flight back then. Sorry.
I will die on my hill of death to the flights in breweries. That is my hill to die on for sure. Nick, you weren't here last week. So Nick, I have decided that breweries need to get rid of flights. No longer offer flights.
Really?
No brewery should ever offer flights.
And what's the reasoning?
I mean, there's.
I have to disagree with you, but I don't want to disagree with you completely until I hear like what's the key reason here.
Well,
what's the reason, Ken?
Yeah, I'm intrigued because
I wish you would have been here last week.
I know because now I kind of have to get involved in this now because I feel if it wasn't for craft beer flights, I don't know if I would have been in it as much because you get to try the different stuff, you get to try the different styles. It gets you excited. Without having to fully commit to a $6 pint or a $5 pint of something from one of the breweries. So
first of all, nearly every brewery will offer you a sample of a beer before you invest your money into a flight. So I don't think you're going to really break into any barriers there. Most people will give you a little taster or something like that just to make sure you like it, especially if it's a style.
Okay.
You're not first, you're probably not going to get it if the brewery is busy. And second, that brewery that is busy might not be doing flights at that time because they don't do flights Friday, Saturday nights when they're that busy. So there's a lot of, positives and negatives, regarding craft beer flights. Somebody, I believe our webmaster Bill, mentioned that one of the things that is antithetical to flights is that if the person is continuously buying, say, smaller pours, which I'm for smaller pours, they're going to be running the wait staff rampant because they're going to be going back and forth. But in the same token, any brewery where the compromise is when it's busy as all hell and people are ordering, a table of 8 sits down and orders 8 flights. The bartenders hate that. The wait staff hates that. Everybody hates you because now you're taking time away from getting served because you sat down for 8 flights and not 8 pints. So I think it's more we're getting to the point where craft beer is not new. And I think people can go in and decide on what beer they want without having to have 6 different beers. Now, you weren't here last week when Wendy was here talking about how her and her friends have like strategy sessions before they enter a brewery to talk about which beers they're going to get in their Wendy, flight. But for me, man, like as a person, why do I want to have to commit? You said you don't want to commit to a pint. Why do I have to commit to a set of 5 beers? What if I just want 2?
I think that's the fun though behind a craft beer flight though, is you're going to have 4 or 5 ounce pours right there labeled. I think that's part of the fun. And I think that's part of the, I don't know what the word it is. I know what I'm trying to say, but I don't know that's the niche thing about craft beer. I feel you can't go to your local watering hole and say, not that I would ever do this, but if we're talking here, you're not going to go in there and ask for a 5 ounce pour of Budweiser, Bud Light, Michelob, fucking PBR. You're not going to do that because, to the casual beer drinker, it probably tastes the same. The one that drinks the yellow beer, and I'm not shitting on yellow beer. I'm not saying that at all.
If you can't taste the difference between PBR and Bud Light,
that's another conversation for another.
I just assume at that point you just have long COVID and you can't taste anything.
Yeah, I probably do have long COVID. I don't freaking know, but I'm just kidding. I don't. But I think the thing with craft beer flights is that's kind of like the niche thing to do because you can get different flavors. You can get different styles. You can't go to the local watering hole in doing that. Now, I will say, though, Ken, I will agree with you when you say craft breweries are more apt to giving tasters to people than ever before. I remember when I went into Brooks Brewing for the very, very first time, it opened a number of years ago. They were more than happy to give us tasters. And it wasn't and I think it was on a Friday or a Saturday night. I can't remember. I think it was a Saturday night. We went on there on a Saturday night, Tara and I, and we had tasters, and they were more than willing to accommodate. I think we still did flights. At least one flight, we shared it. but they were more than willing to accommodate. And I really like to be able to go and taste the different stuff rather than commit to a single pint or another pint of something. But I think that's what makes craft beer so much fun, is that you get to be able to do that kind of stuff. I disagree, but I get it. I get where you're coming from, but I disagree. I don't know. That's just me. I'm sure the conversation was a hell of a lot more intensive last week when I wasn't there last week.
Yeah, Dan was the mediator between Wendy and I.
Yeah, they were going at it.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure they were. But planning. I'm sorry, Wendy. I love you, but the planning sessions. Come on.
I know, that's so funny.
You just go into here's me and Tara when we did our little beer tour in 2017. We went to a brewery, we looked at the menu. This sounds good. This sounds good. This sounds good. This sounds good. We want a flight of this if they did flights. So most of them did. And they brought it all out. And to me, that's fun. I like the fun part about this industry. And, I hope breweries don't stop it, but, I can understand why doing it, not doing it on a Friday or Saturday night where it's the most busiest. I can understand why that would be crazy, especially in a packed house. You go to Eastern Market on a Friday, Saturday night, downtown Detroit, Eastern Market. I'm sure it gets freaking nuts there on Fridays and Saturday nights. And
talk about the brewery, right?
The brewery, yes. Yeah, the actual brewery in Eastern Market.
I don't think Eastern Market does flights.
I don't think so either. They just take your order, they have to go walk down and
yeah. Then there you go. That's fine. Hey, I mean, again, I'm not. Well, who am I to say no to a business that decides not to do it? I'm not a business person. I just order the beer. If you ever see the movie Goodfellas, where the owner of the business talks to Paulie, and he says,
Pauly Shore.
I don't know. Pauly Shore. Yeah, Pauly Shore and Goodfellas. With a bunch of Italian dudes. Get the hell out of here. He's like, I don't know anything about the restaurant business. The only thing I know is how to order off the menu. That's exactly me, except I'm not a mob boss or anything like that. I'm just some pesky little electrical engineer, that kind of knows what he's talking about. So, well, no, I kind of know that. That's another conversation for another day. But yeah, that's a hell of a debate. I'll say that much. I think it's a hell of a debate.
Are there any other changes in your mindset about craft beer that you have gone through since we've started this show? Dan talks about, at least on the brewer's side, like he thought brewers were kind of snobby, but in reality they're just bros like most people drinking PBR and making beer.
I think one thing is that I did not really realize how connected or how collaborative this entire industry is. And to me, I think that speaks volumes to the kinds of people that are in this industry, because they all want to see it succeed. And it doesn't appear to me that one brewery is out to go and get the other. Of course, they're buying, the bigger breweries are going to gobble up the smaller ones. That's business. But
is that still a thing these days?
We've been seeing the complete opposite. There's a lot of these breweries that were purchased by like Constellation and ABI regaining their independence, like Funky Buddha and I feel like there's one more that was a big one, but these breweries are getting out of
Ballast Point.
Ballast Point. Ballast Point kind of like got resold though to someone else though. They didn't really
too much smaller, but
for sure,
about was it Constellation that bought them for $1 billion?
For $1 billion.
Took like an $800 million loss on it. Like,
it's like the AOL MySpace buy. I remember because Ballast Point just hit Michigan when that happened, and our gracious sponsors, Atuna Liquor over in Rochester Hills, just south of M59 on Rochester Road, had a huge ass sign that he put in the window that said, "Now serving Ballast Point, the $1 billion brewery."
Well, yeah, you remember the early days of the show? I was drinking Habanero Sculpin like it was water. That was it's still a good beer. When they decide to release it.
I was gonna say, yeah, I know they don't release it very often. Remember, still in my mind, the Watermelon Dorado was so bad. Easily one of the worst beers I've had on this show. And we even did that spoiled Bourbon County coffee that tasted like green apple.
Yeah, that watermelon one was bad. I don't think they make that anymore, but maybe. I mean, they've really refined their menu since those days.
Oh, go on, Nick.
I was gonna offer one more thing. I don't know about you guys. This is not a beginning of the show opinion. I think I derived this opinion kind of like midway through. There was so much emphasis on trying to make hold on. Wait. Oh, what's going on here? You want to stay with Daddy while he drinks beer? Say hi. Okay, there we go. I think the emphasis on big banging beers, the ones that can, the most boozy. Okay. All right.
That's the benefit of live podcasting, folks.
The joys of live radio, everybody. They're trying to make the biggest banging beer by ABV. I feel like that was a big thing a number of years ago. I personally feel that that's definitely staved off quite a bit over the last couple of years. I don't see a lot of people. I mean, I'm sure it's still happening, but I definitely don't feel like by the numbers it's happening as much. I think people are. I for one, I got turned off by the idea, and we've had a conversation with Rob on the show a long time ago about this with the whole triple mash discussion. I just got turned off by those big boozy beers. I'll like them every once in a while, but I'm turned off by the idea.
Yeah, the big beers. I mean, when you have the ability to, I tell this because it's always a funny story, in my opinion. When Dan and I were in San Antonio and Dan was crushing all these big beers and I'm drinking the ESBs and the milds and the lagers everywhere we go. Like, I think there's a time and place for those big beers and the special occasions. But I think what turned us off as a collective was that it almost seemed like everything became a special occasion. Like, there was a special occasion, like a festival. And then there was, festivals every weekend, and then a brewery opening. And then there was the special releases. I mean, look at the yearly releases that we have for Dragon's Milk, Flying Buffalo, Milkshake Stout, the Imperials, KBS over at Founders, I think I said No Rules, Buckley over at Transient. Oh, No Rules. It almost then became like a weekly release party of all these beers and all these boozy beers. And then remember what the brewery would start shipping out to us here in Michigan, like the 12 Days of Christmas beers that they made, or, even the beers that they sent us when we had them on the show. We still had some smaller ones, but all of these beers always seem to be these high ABV beers, whereas now, and we've been saying it for the past few years, this is the year of the lager. This is the year of the lager. Honestly, with the advent of those RTDs and seltzers and lower ABV options and easy crushable options, I think we're in the world of you need to have these low to no ABV beers. It's almost mandatory in Michigan these days. And I really, really hope that these breweries are going to be able to sell, not like, because brew pubs obviously are going to be able to do it. But if I walk into a brewery, and I'm trying to think of, I think it was Two Roots, when Two Roots came on the show, and he talked about how he would used to have an NA beer in between his whiskeys to pace himself so that he wouldn't just constantly just be drinking whiskey and only whiskey. Or whiskey and then soda. Like, you don't want to, there are points at times where you just don't want soda. You want, something delicious, something tasty. So places like Ale Mary's can cover these NAs, but places like Brewery Faison can't unless they make their own, and you can't make your own because it's really complicated. So I think we are in the world now of lagers and NAs versus those old days of again, with the bitter wars, we had the ABV wars. I mean, 20%. God, look at all those beers we drank at the beginning of this show.
Oh yeah.
Not today, but we would joke that if it was a session beer if it was under 10%, because nearly every beer we had was over 10%. But we also had the ability to share beers, so we could drink these high ABV beers and not get completely plastered when we would leave the studio, because we were drinking high ABV. It was a bottle share. That's what the show basically started off with, was a bottle share.
Did. And it was all that, exactly what you're talking about. I mean, how many times do we joke that anything's a session beer if you try hard enough? I'll be out there mowing my lawn drinking a BCBS, no big deal, because that's everything that was out there was 10% or higher. You know, they're still out there. There are breweries that specialize in it. You know, Bottle Logic's a good example. You know, Rob and I absolutely love them. But you don't see it where it's every beer anymore. They'll probably have like a Russian Imperial that's going to run at 10 or 11%. They'll have like a barrel aged stout, but you're not going to see like 4 or 5 or 6 different options anymore. I think it really has taken a turn the other way.
Yeah, I think and we see it with Ashley over at Metropolitan Variety. Like, the amount of NA that he sells over there and mocktails and stuff, like, people that aren't sober or even sober curious are going there to buy NA stuff because, one, it's good to have when you're, you know, having people over, but two, we as an industry, I think, are starting to curb the amount of drinking that we did. And I think maybe COVID brought in a big bump into that, because we weren't going out, so we could drink at home. We didn't have to drive anywhere, so we drank a lot more. I think we're seeing that shift. A correction, I think, would be a good way to place that. I mean, Nick, you're drinking NAs right now. Dan, you were drinking NAs for a few weeks. Rob was drinking NAs for a couple months. I drank for NAs for a couple months. Like, we weren't doing it for any, you know, specific reason, but it also didn't really affect us that much. Like, we were just like, oh, no. we want the flavor. And the buzz is just almost secondary now.
I think the buzz is secondary. I
drink beer for the taste.
Yeah, I like the flavor.
As I say, I think we all do that. Like, I'm not trying to if I wanted to get shit faced, I'm drinking PBR or some malt liquor, you know, as much as I joke about it. But, you know, like, I'm sitting here drinking one of these. Some OE. But, like, I'm sitting here, this other beer I have an Imperial Coffee Milkshake Stout. This is amazingly good. I'm not drinking it to get drunk. I'm drinking it because it actually tastes great.
It's all about the flavor.
Yeah.
All about the flavor. I mean, people shit on me at bowling on Monday nights. Every time I get like a Miller 64 or something like that, I'm like, you know what? You guys can shit on me all you want. I do it because it just quenches that thirst that I want in the moment. You know, I'm not there to go get shit canned, because if I do, then I'm not going to bowl any good. That's just how it is.
I mean, I was drinking Alaskan Amber until, like, I started more counting my calories and moved to Miller Lite as opposed to Alaskan Amber, because it's like half the calories in the beer. But when I go bowl on Monday nights myself, like, I'm drinking Guinness, because Guinness is only $4.50 a can, which at a bowling alley is ridiculously cheap. And then when I bowl Wednesday nights, I can either get a pitcher of Oberon for $23 or $4 pints or $4.23s a Labatt. Like, it really twists my arm there. I'm just gonna go with the Labatt. Like, there comes a point where, like, if I'm drinking for a buzz, like, the flavor doesn't matter to me. But Labatt ain't bad. Miller Lite ain't bad. Like, we joke about it, but there's a reason why they sell a lot of it. And you know, in comparison to, like, a true lager, like, if you go to if you, like, in my kegerator right now, I have an Italian Pils from Oddside. That beer is so fucking good. And compared to Miller Lite, it blows it out of the water. But, you know, there comes a point in time for all of these beers, I think, is what we're getting to. There is a point in time for, you know, that first beer of the summer, or the beer that you're mowing your lawn. And I think everyone has different definitions. Dan was not driving, so his point in time was that he can drink whatever he wants. It doesn't matter. For me, I was taking cans to take home, and I was drinking those high octane beers back at the Airbnb. Yeah. So I think we have learned. I think as a group between the three of us, we have learned that drinking to drink is way behind us. But drinking for flavor and being okay with, one, drinking NA, two, not drinking as much as we used to. Like, these things that are better drinking things that we do now, I think are for the best for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree too.
What's that Rochester Mills you got over there, Dan?
The Imperial Coffee.
What are you thinking of it? Does it tell you what coffee was in there?
I'm taking a look. It doesn't say that I'm.
They've done like
on here
Woodward, I think, coffee roasters at one point. I remember. So I was just curious if it had anything in there. But what do you think? What's the ABV and what's your opinion on it?
It's 7.5. It's very good. It's not too bitter. It's kind of perfect. I got it. It's not entirely cold. It's kind of just chilled a little bit. So flavor's coming out really good. I'm impressed with it. Everything they've done as far as these variants go, and shout out to Brigham for sending these out to me. The 12 Days of Christmas one, everything I've had out of there is just amazing. Like it's like they can't screw up when they do these. So it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, as much as I joke about adjuncty beers and too many adjuncts getting into beers, I'm not above tasting it or trying it myself. When it comes to the opportunity, like the banana, I think it was banana. No, it was coconut rum. Dragon's Milk, easily one of the best like Dragon's Milks that I ever had. But when you get to those beers, like sometimes just the adjuncts are too much. Like there's too much. There is a thing is too much flavor, too much, like too many things happening at once when sometimes you just kind of want your beer. Nick, are you still on that Harpoon, or did I see you have a partake?
I literally just finished it.
What'd you think of the Harpoon?
I actually like it. I like it.
Is that the IPA?
Yeah, it's the hazy IPA, that NA. Yeah.
That's a low calorie NA too.
Yeah, it is. They advertise 35 calories on the can. This is extremely, I mean, yeah, it's non-alcoholic, but you can have a whole 6-pack of these very, very easily, especially in this muggy 90-degree weather that we have here in southeastern Michigan. What's the temperature in Arizona today, Dan?
It's about 110 today. About to get up to 118 later this week.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, luckily for you, you don't have to deal with forest fire smoke right now. So.
That's probably coming. This is when the fires start out here, when it gets this hot. Yeah, I know what you guys are talking about.
You guys actually have trees. Wait, you guys have trees in Arizona?
Yeah, Arizona is a pretty high elevation. Pretty high elevation state for the most part, with a lot of pine tree forests.
Oh.
So, and we got surrounded 2 years ago. The fires were so bad.
Oh yeah,
if you saw the pictures in New York where the sky was orange, it was similar here for quite a while.
Oh yeah.
Did you see the in Times Square with the Diablo 4?
I did. That's exactly. I was about to say that too. Like, damn, they went all out.
Yeah, we thankfully haven't had too much regarding the sky color changing, but yeah, here it's been a little I'll just not hard to breathe. Like I mowed the lawn yesterday and it wasn't too bad, but I could definitely feel myself a little weird, like gassed a little bit more. But I think that's also with like the muggy weather. What's the second beer that you got over there? You showed us a second NA. What's?
It's the Two Roots Straight Drink. I'm going to start that later. Start that in a minute. So.
I
actually just really quickly, quick change of subject. I pulled up the Diablo 4 ad because I wanted to see what you were talking about.
Oh yeah,
hilarious.
Yeah, perfect.
Welcome to hell, New York.
Before we kind of wrap up the show, as we're kind of talking about, what we've learned, what we've talked about within the industry, who we talked to, I want to get your guys' opinions on some of the favorite guests that you've had within the show itself. Like, who are some of the people that, you know, maybe when they walked in the studio, you had one thought of them and then they were completely different, or when they, you know, hopped on the Zoom here, especially for our more international or national people. Who are some of the favorite people that you've talked to or learned about to hear their story? And I'm going to start with Nick, because Nick, you've been here the whole time, 7.5 years with me. You're muted, Nick. Congratulations. Welcome to 2023.
23. Still can't figure it out. Nick the Brewer. Love Nick the Brewer. Love his personality. Love his energy that he brings on the show, that he's always brought on the show every time we've had him. And even the times when we're not on the show, when we're at breweries or at festivals, just love his energy. I love it. It's infectious. So Nick the Brewer was always a joy to have.
As a tie-in real quick before you continue, to give you a little bit more time to think in case you need it. The episode with Unity Vibration and Nick the Brewer. So we had Jessica Buttle, Matthew Gwynn, and Nick the Brewer on. This was episode 34. So this was May of 2016. But I have a vivid recollection of this show because at one point, I'm doing stuff on my phone. I'm posting on Facebook and Matt Bush looks to me and says, "Is everything okay?" And if you guys recall, this was when Nick and the Unity Vibration folk were talking about different trees that they would love to use for barrel aging. And the show was, for lack of better words, on autopilot. They were just interviewing themselves and chatting.
Yeah, they talked about starting a company that makes barrels.
Yeah,
they were what it turned into.
They were talking. I'm pretty sure they were talking about psychedelics at one point. But Nick is and we didn't even get into the awesomeness that is Nick the Brewer. Like, I don't even think at that point we learned that he used to be a cruise ship entertainer. So he has such a amazing aura around him. So go check out again the May 2016 show, which is episode 34, episode 20, which is the February 2016 show. But he's been on a few more times, including right before COVID hit. And I think that's easily one of the best shows because he was kind of doing his own thing. He wasn't tied down to Black Lotus. So go check out all those Nick the Brewer shows. You'll easily learn something new because, one, we don't talk very much on those shows. That's really the Nick the Brewer show. But go on. What other shows did you enjoy, or people that you enjoyed chatting with?
Having obviously one of our very first hosts, Eric Brigham. He's always fun. And he definitely kind of opened the door about craft beer on the business side a little bit, you know, kind of gave us that first little glimpse of what it's like to be a business owner.
That's probably what showed Dan that these brewers aren't really D-bags.
He was the perfect first guest that we ever had. I
agree. Yeah. I think if it wasn't for Eric coming in to be the very first guest on the show, I think we probably would have thought about that for a little bit while longer, potentially.
Between him and Bob, who came on
episode 2.
I can't think of Bob's last. Episode 2. Yeah, that solidified it.
Yeah. And then one more, John Piepenbrock. Guy that screams character all the time. And we actually he went from being brewer to distributor.
He was sales. He was always
in sales. Yeah. Okay, my bad. But he always seemed to have a keen eye on the industry.
Yeah,
he definitely had his own unique takes about it too, which I really, really appreciate.
For those listening to the show and you want to go back, or if a lot of these people, especially both craft beer fans as well as craft beer industry people, know John Piepenbrock in the Michigan, Metro Detroit world, definitely go check out episode 300. As much as it's a different episode from 200 and 100 that we've done with him. Different episode than all of these online episodes that we've been doing in Zoom because we did it in person. But importantly, that episode with John Piepenbrock, Eric Brigman, who we mentioned, and Aaron Langtot, talking about the industry, I think is all three of those have such a great, the trio of minds is just such an amazing thing that you just kind of sit there and listen. And that's one thing that I always love when we have a guest is when I can just sit here and I'm almost like fanboying like whoever it is because whatever they're saying is just so entertaining. But what about you, Dan? I mean, you there was some time that you weren't with us, obviously, because you moved to Arizona. But now that you're back, you've been back with us for over 3 years again. Because that's how long we've been doing this on
Zoom. That long?
Yeah.
Yikes.
So there's a couple that stick out, and these might kind of be surprising. First off, the guys from Spetzel, like, oh my God, they were
the Shiner folk.
Great. Yeah, the Shiner folk. And then just doubling down when we went there, how well they treated us was absolutely amazing.
Got my new it's my desk bottle opener for my office.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
The Shiner.
Yep.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yep.
Another one that sticks out, John Kimmich? Am I saying his name correctly? From The Alchemist? Him and his wife Jen, yes. Yeah, absolutely amazing. It's nice to talk to someone, being the inventor of, basically the New England IPA and hearing his thoughts of where it's turned into at this point was absolutely good. I was going to mention like the guys from episode 300. All three of those guys have been absolutely amazing to us through the whole show. You about to say Eric, John, and Aaron Langtot. Yeah, all three of them have just been great to us.
Yeah, that is easily one of my favorite episodes to record, and the fact that we did it in person, I think it made it a lot more fun because it was starting to go back. Not necessarily back to the old studio days, but it definitely felt like we were kind of like trending towards that because we were there at the production facility for Rochester Mills, and it was quiet, just like a studio.
Yep.
So.
Well, yeah, he opened up the brewery for us to be able to do that, which is incredible. I mean, you're not going to have too many people that are going to be like, yeah, come on in, just do whatever. Yep.
They were getting ready for the wedding shower next door.
Yeah. And Ken was like, we may have to help set up tables for a little bit. I'm like, let's do it.
All right,
it was
fine.
a great time. Another one that really stands out, and this was kind of like a side episode, I don't remember if it was a 0.5 episode, is the one that Ken and I did at the Shop Beer Co. Along with Tap That AZ. Absolutely great time. Those guys just let us come into their brewery, hang out, meet them, had a great conversation. And then there was one other one that just slipped my mind. There was something else too. I'll probably think about it.
I'll try to give you a minute to think about it. But yeah, when you and I were in Arizona, Eric over at Tap That AZ was gracious enough to literally come in and not only allow us to do an episode with the Shop Beer Co., but do an episode with him, which was a lot of fun. He set it all up. It actually spawned our ability to be able to go to all of these sites and record at these sites, which is when we did, for example, the World Expo of Beer, all those episodes on site. When we did the episodes, when we did the road show with, at that time, the Beer Locker and Ed, our editor-in-chief, was on and Matt, where we went to Brewery Becker, Old Nation, and Aberrant. So yeah, the Shop Beer Co. was a fun little show. For sure, where I was just in Arizona with Dan and we got the opportunity to do it. Did you get a chance to think about that last one?
Absolutely not. It totally left my mind. But I brought up some great examples here. What about you, Ken? I'm curious what your opinions are. Who you think have been good?
Yeah, so those were half episodes, 163 and a half and 164 and a half, just because while we were recording in Arizona, they were actually doing the show in the studio.
The live show.
Because we didn't have to, like, it didn't really rely on my computer and OBS and all these extra parts of it.
That was during the Hockey Town days, too.
Yeah, we were doing shows in Hockey Town. We were
Yep.
splitting time. We weren't doing any shows that had anything downtown going on. So any Wings game, any Tigers game. So every once in a while, we were always downtown. But for me, some of my favorite episodes, as I think about it, each one sparks a little bit different reasoning. The first one is when we had Tenacity in the show. Tenacity brought in some of their first like distilled from beer spirits. And we had the opportunity to try like an apple brandy that was made from a cider, and their blonde ale, which they turned into a vodka. So easily one of my favorite episodes was the Tenacity episode. On top of that, I think during like the COVID years, we had so many great national guests, but when we had Hedek Fenny on from Omni Pollo on like a Sunday morning, for us at least, that was such a great like learning experience to learn about brewing in a non like North American way. So like learning about that. And we did have Brandon on, I believe, from Space Force Brewing over in Cerveza Cancun at the time. I think he's the head brewer and owner of Space Force Brewing now in Mexico. So learning about the ability to kind of take your craft elsewhere and go. The Weathered Souls episode is easily one of my favorites too. With Marcus, that was fun. And the one that I'm going to, I think, as we all have that, that weird one that I think everyone chats about, and they're like, oh, what's your weird or your favorite weird one? Honestly, when we had Unexpected on, Eddie Stencil over there, former,
I love Eddie. Yeah.
Like Unexpected is such a great, humble craft brewery, and that is a dude that just loves what he's doing.
He's really good at it too.
Yeah, and again, this doesn't mean like anything more or less from all of our other guests. Like having Julia Hers on to talk about home brewing, and that's one of those episodes where we just sat and listened. Same with like John Mallett. Folks, the Better on Draft show is one of those shows to where you can go back and listen to a lot of these episodes. And these episodes, while they are a moment in time, talk about the brewery or the industry or the person and how they got into the craft. It's not as topical as you may think, unless you're listening to one of the craft beer news episodes. So I think it gives you the opportunity to really learn about some of the things that you might not get a chance to learn about, both for our fans in Michigan who, started us off here at Better on Draft, as well as our national fans who have joined us as we have grown during the COVID years, bringing in, Firestone Walker, Wiley Roots, Weldworks, Partake. All of these breweries have been amazing. So I appreciate it. This isn't a goodbye or anything like that. I'm just, showing my appreciation. But that is going to do it. That is episode 320, Better on Draft podcast. Folks, we are live Friday, 7:15 p.m. Eastern on twitch.tv/Better on Draft, as well as facebook.com/Better on Draft. We actually have a guest in studio next week.
We still do that?
Yes, we do. We had a few weeks off. It's okay. Sometimes it's nice to just kind of talk to you guys.
It's summertime.
Yeah.
We're
time.
We're going to be bringing in a lot of guests in the upcoming weeks, working on getting the scheduling back for McKellar, Alaskan, and Atwater, which are some of the guests that we had to reschedule, either due to my fault not having internet or their fault for just miscommunication. Line and Kugel, we're going to be bringing in. So we're going to have definitely...
You got that Cocoa Berry Shandy ready to go?
It's still in the fridge. Still in the fridge.
How many years have you had that? It's got to be over a decade.
No, it came in on the show. Like it's a show. It's a show relic. Like Matt Bush gave it to me.
Oh my God.
Folks, join us live in the chat, just like we had. I still don't know how to say it. Hopefully they tell me by the end of this, and we'll fix it for next week. 2T, MI, Krog, as well as Quesadilla. Whoever got that name on Twitch is pretty lucky. That's for damn sure. Again, twitch.tv/Better on Draft. Watch us live, youtube.com/Better on Draft if you want to check out the video, or subscribe to us, iTunes, Podcast Addict, all those, Spotify, whatever you use for your podcasts. Listen to us at 1.4x speed just so you get it in and out as fast as possible, especially if you're going back to listen to the 320 episodes that we've done before, not including all the half episodes, not including all the news episodes, not including all the Michigan series episodes. Yeah, there's easily 450 episodes. Go check us out. It's been a great time. Thank you so much for joining us, and no matter what you think of your beer, we think it's Better on Draft. Have a good night.